Hey everybody, how's it going? No uploads from me in the morning or the early afternoon today after how late I was able to get things going last night. I just wasn't really feeling anything early. Decided to go ahead and take the morning off, which is obviously a little unfortunate given the fact that we've got a lot of things going on in the NFL right now. Nothing necessarily with this team though. So I know that everyone's mind right now is on who's going to stay, who's going to go, because it is, in fact, Black Monday. And the indications we're getting from this team are more along the lines of most things are going to stay. Maybe pretty much everything is going to stay. But I'll address that in the future. I'm not going to address that too much in this video. That's something that is going to take a full video to really dig into. But I do want to go ahead and do the final snap count Monday of the year. I want to make sure I get that out because this isn't just about this last game. This is about the whole season now because we now have a full season worth of data. And I want to see how to, and I want to get an idea of how to feel about how this team divvied up snaps this year. So we're going to start with running back like we always do. And before we move on to other positions, we're going to look at the overall picture as well as just the most recent games. So, running back, pretty simple. Rashad Penny got most of the carries, 43 out of 58. Oh, and by the way, while we're here, total snaps, we didn't even get to 1,000. Did not get to 1,000 offensive snaps, despite having an extra game. Did not get to 1,000 snaps on offense. I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than wow. This offense, at the end of the day, they did manage to get into the top half of the league in terms of points scored. They're not as bad as they were looking earlier, but that number is it's ugly. So DJ Dallas got 2 snaps on offense in this game, so basically a complete afterthought, which disappoints me a little bit, but Penny was playing so well, I can't hate on it. It makes sense, right? And then Travis Homer got 13 snaps. So pretty much what you would expect. Homer gets to come in as like a third down back, and Rashad Penny basically gets every meaningful snap other than that. And he's been playing really well lately, so that just makes all the sense in the world that you would give him as many snaps as you can. And that gets us to the end of the season at the running back position, and because of the massive number of injuries we had at running back, no one player in this running back stable got over 26% of the snaps. So I that's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I normally I would be like, yeah, okay, cool. We're not wearing out our running backs, but the way we got here was pretty. It was not exactly the way you want to get here, right? Like Carson played 4 games and then got the heck out of here. Basically, he wasn't on the team. Rashad Penny, he got injured multiple times and then finally strung together a bunch of good games at the end. Collins basically didn't play the last 6 games of the year. DJ Dallas, he didn't get hurt, I don't think. I don't think he missed any games to injury, but he's just a general afterthought. Travis Homer, pure third down back, who did actually miss a couple games, but he was mostly healthy. But this isn't a bad idea. It's just the way we got here is kind of ugly, right? But hey, injuries do happen, and the only person you can really blame for that would be, I guess, Ivan the Terrible. So maybe we get him out of here, and that'll make things better next year. But sure. Okay, wide receiver. Pretty much what you would expect at this point. Metcalf and Lockett played almost every snap. We learned yesterday that Metcalf was playing through some kind of bone spur in his foot that was limiting his ability to play, but still grinded out almost 83% of the snaps, still played a lot, still played in every game, still productive. So he may get surgery this offseason. And Freddie Swain got 19 snaps as the third receiver. Dwayne Eskridge got 12, and Penny Hart got 4. Kind of what you would expect at this point. Like, I think it's disgusting that a guy like a Freddie Swain gets more snaps and more action and more targets than a Dwayne Eskridge because I know who's more talented there. But at the same time, I know that Eskridge is way behind the eight ball here because of the concussion that took him out for basically 2 months. And he also got injured a little bit in training camp. So hopefully next year this isn't the case. I know Freddie Swain made a nice play today, but he's not good. Freddie Swain is not good, and he does not need to be a big part of this offense in 2022. I know that. He needs to have this number of snaps. He almost got to 600 this year. He needs to have this number cut in like half at least. He's not good. And almost every big play he makes is on a busted coverage. So if you look at the summation, it's there's not a whole lot to say here. Eskridge was basically the number four receiver this year, even when he was relatively healthy. He had like 1 or 2 games where he had a full slate of snaps. So there's not a whole lot to analyze here. Lockett would have been probably up around 90% or 88% if he didn't miss games. So I think that this is pretty reasonable, all things considered. It's really unfortunate that Eskridge got hurt, but it is what it is. Tight end to wrap it up. Really nice balance overall here. I know that both our top two tight ends missed 2 games apiece, but the balance shown on this offense is actually pretty rock solid. Everett played almost every snap in this most recent game, by the way. I think that with Disley out, he just kind of has to play almost every snap. 55 out of, what did I say? It was 58. So he gets to 650 exactly on the year. Disley missed the game, like I said. So Colby actually got a lot of action. He seemed to play pretty well. So Colby, maybe he's going to round into something that can help us a little bit this year, or excuse me, next year. Well, 2022 now, so next season, I should say. But Colby, it seems like he's actually a better blocker than I gave him credit for, and he caught a couple passes on Sunday, so he did good. And Mabry got in for a little bit of garbage time, 2 snaps. So if you take a look at the overall picture, Everett playing about 2/3 of the snaps, Disley playing about a half the snaps, Colby playing about 20% of the snaps. That's kind of the blueprint I would have laid out for the tight end position in the offseason before the season started. So that would have been kind of cool. Now, again, Everett missed 2 games, Disley missed 2 games. So it's not quite that simple, but still, this is a nice spread at the tight end spot. I kind of like it. And if we choose to bring back Everett and Disley in 2022, which I am in favor of personally, I think that would be a good idea. Then I can I can see the tight end room being pretty solid in 2022. And I think we did a pretty good job balancing snaps here in a way that made a lot of sense. All right, let's jump over to the defense, starting with the defensive ends. And we've got some interesting stuff to talk about here. First of all, we played 76 snaps in this game, so we were outsnapped very badly by the Cardinals again. 13, well, not almost 1,300, but in the ballpark of 1,300 total snaps. 1,266. Yikes. So we were outsnapped by, God, close to 30%. Or we almost faced 300 more snaps on defense than we had on offense. It's bad. It's real bad. And it does remind you that as much as this defense has not played that well over the last 3 games of the season, they've given up almost 90 points combined over those 3 games. A lot of it is because they're probably worn out because they're on the field too much. So that can't happen in 2022. I know that much. All right, so defensive ends. Dunlap actually played more than he has played in any game since week 4. He got 43 snaps, which I was not expecting because he was questionable with an injury going into this game. I didn't even know if he was going to play, but he played, and he played very well. Alton, despite him supposedly being off the COVID list, I guess we just didn't feel like we could bring him up yet. He didn't play. Mayoa got 30 snaps, reasonable. Kerry Hyder got 22 snaps, so he never really reclaimed his full role after coming back from the COVID list. Really, really part-time player. And Rasheem Green got a huge number of snaps, 58, which is par for the course with the way we've been doing things all season. So if you take a look at the way we divvied up snaps this year at the defensive end position, Rasheem Green played about 2/3 of the snaps. Nobody else played more than 40%. And except for Mayoa, and Mayoa barely eclipsed 40%, and we know he played a ton of his snaps as a linebacker. So really, when you're thinking about it, the rotation was solid. Now, the rotation was kind of forced because Dunlap had turf toe, and I think we were really trying to take it easy on him. He didn't even get to 500 snaps on the year, despite playing at least a couple snaps in every game. And that messed things up a little bit. But if you take a look at this, the only guy who got massive snaps was Rasheem Green. And Rasheem Green is a relatively young yet veteran player who can take on a big workload. Now, I don't think Rasheem Green is very good at all. I think he's actually kind of bad. But if you're going to have him around, it makes some sense to give him a lot of action. And the fact that we were able to not give any other defensive end more than 40% of the snaps, pretty impressive. So I like that. I don't like the production we got from them. I think that the way we got here was a little bit suboptimal. Like Dunlap obviously would have played way more than this 481 snaps if he didn't get hurt. But at the end of the day, these percentages are kind of nice. And that carries over to the defensive tackle room. So before I get into that, let's take a look at this overall game. Poona Ford played 52 snaps. Al Woods did not play. Monet and Kimble got 31 snaps apiece, and Collier got 19. So, decent spread. Poona Ford gets a heaping helping of snaps because he's a relatively young player in his prime, somebody you can put a big workload on. And other than that, everyone else just kind of gets to rotate in and out pretty evenly. But we're seeing the same thing here. Take a look. The only player on the defensive tackle list here who played more than half the snaps on the season is Poona Ford, who should be able to take on a workload like that. You had Al Woods play about 50%. You had Collier and Kimble kind of just clean up random spots here and there and never play that many snaps. And Monet played almost 400, a little less than a third of the snaps. So the snap counts are clean here. If you really take a look at this, the only two guys we put a huge load on the defensive line were Green and Ford, guys who can really handle that. Everybody else, that we limited their snaps very well, and I will give credit to this team for handling that. Now, they didn't play as well as I wanted them to, but hey, I'll take good news where I can get it, I guess. Okay, linebacker up next, and this is pretty straightforward, right? Jordan Brooks played every snap. Wagner, injured, did not play. Barton played every snap. So I think that that's just the way you would expect things to go. Daryl Taylor, however, again, mostly playing from the defensive line, played more snaps than he ever has in a game this year. He played 43, and he played pretty well for the most part. He had a bad penalty, but he played well. So Daryl Taylor ends up playing about 43% of the snaps. So again, that's a guy who did not get a huge workload this year because he's a rookie and we wanted to take it a little easy on him, which I can get behind. So I like that. And if you look at the overall at the linebacker spot, I would like to see Daryl Taylor play some Sam next year. I think Daryl Taylor can do it. He did it a little bit in college. He's got the skill set for it. I think he can do it. Daryl Taylor can be a little bit of a Sam linebacker, but if they can maintain a percentage like this in 2022, I do kind of feel like we have something there. Now, as for the Brooks question and the Barton question and the Wagner question, we don't know if Wagner is going to be here next year. I feel like he won't be. I just don't think there's any way you can justify giving $20 million to Wagner. I mean, I asked this question in stream last night. I'm going to ask it again here. Did you watch the game yesterday? Did you notice our defense playing that much worse without Wagner, with having Barton out there? Would Wagner have done anything that Barton wasn't perfectly capable of doing? Maybe Barton missed one or two tackles that Wagner gets, but Wagner's kind of worn down here at the end of the year anyway. He's perfectly capable of missing some of those tackles at his advanced age and advanced level of usage. So, to me, that should be a learning lesson for some people. Like, this defense, on the whole, it doesn't look that much worse with Barton out there instead of Bobby. So, How is he worth $20 million? That's a good team we were playing out there yesterday, by the way. So I don't think we're going to bring back Wagner next year, but if we could slot Barton in there or move Brooks over there and then find some way to make it work with Brooks and Barton as your top two linebackers and then Taylor plays the Sam, I do think that could potentially work, but it all depends on Barton. And finally, we're going to take a look at cornerback here. DJ Reed got to exactly 1,000 snaps on the year, by the way, so kind of cool. There are some guys who played who aren't listed here, like Josh Jones, who played like 50-something snaps. And other than that, though, it's pretty much what you would expect. DJ Reed and Sidney Jones played all 76 snaps. Ugo Amadi played every snap because he had to play safety because of the Ryan Neal COVID stuff. Nigel Warrior came in at the end of the game, I think, to replace Quandre, because when Quandre broke his foot, there were still 10 minutes left, and he came in for 19 plays, so he got his first 19 defensive snaps of the year. And like I said, Josh Jones played 50-something snaps, and he actually played pretty well. But, yeah, pretty much what you would expect, knowing what we were dealing with. Some of these guys weren't even playing cornerback. So it's a pretty decent spread, all things considered. Like DJ Reed and Sidney Jones. If you're going to bring DJ and Sidney back next year, you're going to probably start them on the outside, and you're going to expect them to play every single snap until they get hurt. Right? Like that's just two outside corners. That's just kind of what you would expect. They play pretty much every snap. Ugo, on the whole, played about 54% of the snaps on the year. Well, 55, let's call it 55. So we played a decent amount of nickel this year, and we did play a little bit of dime. If you look at the snap counts before Jamal got hurt, Ryan Neal was playing some, but his inflated snap count is mostly because Jamal got hurt. And there isn't a whole lot to analyze here, I don't think, other than just the fact that we were playing nickel about half the time this year, probably. So if we choose to bring back Reed and Jones in 2022, they will probably just play all the snaps. And we'll see what we do at nickel. I'm not a big believer in Amadi anymore. If Blair can get 100% healthy, then I would go with him, but I don't have a lot of faith in that. He's already had 2 devastating injuries. Maybe Trey Brown can play nickel next year. I don't know. He played well as an outside corner this year, but had a pretty bad injury, so we're going to have to hold our breath on that one. And that's about it for Snap Count Monday. So that's the final Snap Count Monday of the year. Overall, there's a lot of stuff to glean out of this, a lot of stuff to like, a lot of stuff to not like. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Might see you guys later tonight. We're probably going to stream for like an hour during Monday Night Football. We're going to talk more about this team, talk more about yesterday's game, talk more about what's going on right now with this organization. But there's Snap Count Monday for the 2021 season. See you guys later. Go Hawks.